Oh, hello, YouTubers. This is Natalie TV blogger. Hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Today, I'm going to be reviewing 20-somethings Austin, which is Netflix's new reality show series. First impressions, it reminds me so much of The Real World that's on MTV. Just the whole concept of a group of strangers picked to live in a house and how their everyday life is going to intersect and different drama and things that are going to unfold and how the cast interacts and everything else. What it did make me miss was MTV needs to bring back Real World on their show. I know currently they're filming reunion shows for their past seasons, but I would love it if MTV just brought back the original show because there's honestly nothing like it. And it was groundbreaking for reality TV. I feel like the only place that really kind of took the concept and put it on steroids was CBS's Big Brother, to where not only are people living in a house, but essentially you're getting 24/7 live feeds, and it's a competition show on top of that, to win $250,000 or up to, $750,000 or what have you, just depending on the seasons. But I feel like 20-somethings is kind of the most similar to what the original format of The Real World was, which is a group of 20-somethings, living in this experience and everything else. For this particular season, it seems as though many people either lost their job during the pandemic, or some people, tried to take a leave of absence from their job and ultimately had to resign. Others, may have not had any jobs or anything else, but are living off of their savings and just came to do this reality show. A few people are influencers and are basically, utilizing this opportunity to grow their influencing and everything else. I will say it is not a lot of drama compared to The Real World. So far, for the most part, everybody has been pretty friendly and everybody, for the most part, likes each other. There's been drama here and there, but nothing of the magnitude of, what you typically expect of a reality show. I will say Netflix always gets casting very interesting because there are some people here that you can just tell that are awkward socially, or, this is like a new bubble for them to really expose, any type of hidden secrets about their lives and things of that nature throughout the series. So we have 4 men and 4 women who are separated basically into Airbnbs. So, in the beginning, we kind of get an intro of everybody. Raquel / Roxy, I love her. She reminds me so much in the looks department of Bailey from Big Brother, but she works in IT, and I think she does modeling on the side as well, but she's like completely gorgeous. There is Karami, who is a model. Very good looking, tall, dark, handsome. There is also Isha, who is, a fashion designer. And so she's looking to, get some of her pieces that she has, created into some of these different boutiques to grow her business. There is Abby, who is recently divorced. She was married for 5 years and basically trying to start over in her life. Also, there is Bruce, who is from South Carolina, who is looking to, potentially start a new career in Texas and potentially working for a minor league baseball team. There's Michael, who is a stand-up comedian, who quit his day job to pursue comedy full-time. There is Natalie, who is, kind of in a place of self-discovery. It sounds like she grew up in a pretty strict household. Mentioned that her parents had cameras all over the house, so like she really couldn't do much of anything growing up. And so this is kind of her first exposure to, the real world with no restrictions and nobody, watching her every move except for us, the billions of people that have Netflix. But, kind of a coming of age thing for her. Then there is Keanu, who goes by Kiki. He is a former, it sounded like an administrative resident assistant. I want to say it was the University of Arkansas. And he had to resign from his position in order to do this reality show. And apparently recently came out as gay. So he's now trying to live this new experience as a gay man and how all of that interjects with his regular life. Then there is also, did I get everyone? I think that is everyone. And it's very interesting. Some of the intros, the first episode right off the bat, Abby is like throwing herself at Karami, sexually just like hitting on him nonstop. And I actually think at the beginning, Karami and, Raquel were into each other, because they were like staring at each other when they had to go to the grocery store. But I think for whatever reason, I don't know if Raquel thought that maybe Karami wasn't into her. So she had set her sights initially on Michael. But Michael was so awkward and, said that he's never had a girlfriend. He's never experienced anything before. So he couldn't pick up the fact that, Raquel was flirting with him. And he kept saying in his confessionals that, she's out of his league and all this and that. And he just was not picking up the signs and couldn't believe that, somebody like her would be into him. Then it seemed as though Isha and Bruce were hitting it off, and they even like matched on Hinge. Bruce thought it was the stars aligning. However, that quickly fizzled because Isha was kind of in her own head because she had, went to Berkeley and said that she's really liberal, and basically made the assumption that Bruce was a Trump supporter or, was a hardcore conservative and felt that maybe their views might not have lined up. However, she never actually got the opportunity to know Bruce. And from what we had seen from Bruce, we never got any vibes that there was anything wrong. I mean, he was like literally at one point at a gay nightclub and, he's BFFs with Kiki, who is gay, and, pretty much for the most part did not seem like, there was anything suspect or anything that needed to be of concern to, draw that conclusion. I kind of wish she would have, stayed and kind of pursued that and seen where it went, because Bruce is probably one of the few white guys that I have seen on a reality show that is like completely nice, completely pure, which is like unheard of. There's usually like something problematic, something going on. Somebody has an anger issue or somebody has an issue with how they treat women. But this guy, he has just been completely, a stand-up person. Him and Karami seemed to be also really good friends, and they would go to the gym and kind of work out every day. And I was just really surprised that, Isha kind of just completely, moved away from Bruce and just did not even go out on a date with him or take the opportunity to even see if there was something of potential there. So that was really interesting. Natalie has a very interesting arc. It seems that they have placed her to be like the comedic girl, who's unlucky in love is kind of the vibe that I got from her. And she's basically playing wing woman for like most of the cast. Like she was playing wing woman for Abby and Karami at the beginning. Was playing wing woman at first for Raquel and Michael, and then played, wing woman again for, some of these other people. And then it kind of got messy towards the end because she's on a dating app and the guy that she matches with is sending her inappropriate pics, and she's asking, the girls if she should go out on a date with them. And the girls are trying to tell her, no, if a guy is sending you pics like that unprovoked, without, asking for permission or anything else, or you're not even at that level, then it doesn't mean that he wants to date you. It just means that he's looking to hook up, and that is it. So for some reason, Natalie wanted to think, just because this is like the first time she's getting attention again from somebody, that this is like going to work out for her. And she goes to, out to this like restaurant bar and sits at the bar and is, talking with the bartender and is excited about this date. And, she's eating appetizers, she's drinking different drinks, and lo and behold, the guy stands her up. And even she like texts him after like a half an hour and is like, "Are you still coming or not?" And I'm like, girl, if he sent you that type of picture, he was not looking to take you out on a date. That's not what that picture was for. And so she had felt, a certain type of way or whatever. And I don't know, like, her end game, if she is trying to look for relationships or if she's just trying to put herself out there and just, be available for whatever, just as long as it's some type of attention from a guy, which could be very much of a disaster in itself. So that was kind of basically her arc, was kind of like everybody's friend, everybody's wing woman, and her chaotic dating history as well. Kiki's arc was also, kind of his coming of age, him recently being out of the closet and him never experiencing what it's like to date as a gay man, and, went out on a first date with somebody, and the first guy he went out with, Nate, basically told him, that he can kind of show him around Austin, but essentially he was already involved with somebody. And so then, the group goes to a gay nightclub at one point, and Kiki meets this other guy named Oscar, and, they hit it off really well. And, from there, they seem to, really be interacting and having a good time and everything else. And, things take off. However, Kiki had to leave for a little while in Austin and go home because during this time, his grandmother was in the hospital. And due to COVID, of course, you could only have one visitor. So a lot of times, his mom or somebody would FaceTime him and he would be able to talk to his grandmother. It sounded like she passed away due to a deteriorating health condition or a combination of health conditions. So, it was weird because I want to say the father left a voicemail saying that his grandmother passed away. And I have no idea what in the world, like, how you can leave a voicemail like that. Like, I thought that the voicemail would have been like, "Hey, can you call us back immediately, it's a family emergency," or "Can you call us back, it's an important update about your grandmother," or something like that. But to leave a voicemail that says that your grandmother died, I mean, I have no idea like how I would even react to something like that, because that's insane. And so obviously Kiki broke down in that moment, and then he called his father back and, was trying to get the update on kind of everything that happened, and he lost words and everything else. And it was really nice because then after that, Bruce came in and kind of consoled Kiki and, just really told him like if he needed anything, he was there for them. And after that, Natalie had kind of put together a Cuban style type of dinner, and they like had a toast for Kiki and for, his grandmother and everything else. So he eventually comes back later on in the series. Abby, oh my gosh, she's a hot mess. She is a hot mess. Oh my gosh. So she's bisexual and low-key tried to take away Kiki's moment when he was trying to say that he was gay. And, she was just not, I don't know what's with her, but I don't know, something's off. So she hits on Karami, and he keeps like trying to like flirt with her back, but like also trying to keep things chill. Eventually, by like the third day, they like start hooking up, and Karami tells her, "I just want a friends with benefits situation. I'm not interested in a girlfriend, this and that." And so, Abby claims to be on the same page. However, she's always hitting up Karami. "Let's go out to eat. Let's go get some gelato." Like, she's always initiating all this stuff for them to get together. And I'm like, this is not going to end well. And so, sure enough, when the group goes out to this one bar that features like the mechanical bull riding and everything else, Karami starts to flirt with some of the other women that are in the bar. And another thing that I noticed, because if you'll remember earlier, I had said how Karami was staring at Raquel the first episode at the grocery store. Well, this particular episode, when they were at the, bar restaurant with the mechanical bull, Raquel was there, and she was there with another brother, and I wanted to know so bad who it was that she was talking to, but they kept like just showing her, but like not showing us like what that interaction was about, like if this was just like a friend she met in Austin, if this was like somebody she was dating in Austin. We had no clue, but the camera tried to make it seem like Karami was looking at Abby getting on the mechanical bull, but actually, if you follow his eyes, he actually was staring at Raquel. And so I was trying to figure out why production is trying to make like this Karami and Abby thing, a thing, because it's not a thing. It's very one-sided. Abby is way more into Karami than he was into her, and even though they had set boundaries in the beginning, it's clear that she had caught feelings, even though she's recently divorced, and, tried to downplay it. And it was funny because even there was a moment when they went to go get the gelato that Abby tried to kiss Karami in public, and he curved her, and it was hilarious. And, he was like, well, you're trying to do that? And he was like, no. Like, this is not what we, decided. And so it's just very weird. And so Abby was jealous of Karami flirting with these women at this bar restaurant, and like had an attitude. And it's like, why are you upset? Like, why do you care? And, then Karami ended up kissing one of the girls, and they like left together or whatever else to get out of, the loudness of the bar and all the activity that was going on. And Abby was just in her feelings. And then it was weird because both Natalie and Abby was trying to make Karami apologize and say that he's being disrespectful. And I'm like, how is he being disrespectful? You're not boyfriend and girlfriend. He's not your husband. Like, you guys never established that you guys were anything more than hookup buddies. So why do you care what he's doing? Like, it was just very bizarre. And it just seems like Abby just has like some type of possessive thing going on. And I noticed it the first episode with Isha as well, because Isha and Bruce seemed to be hitting it off really well. And it was kind of like Abby pulled Isha away from Bruce, almost as if she felt a way about how close Bruce and Isha were getting because she was attracted to Isha. And it's like, Isha doesn't even swing this way, girl. So what are you doing? And she's like, well, I just don't think that they're going to work out. And like just already putting that negativity out there. So I think that might have also influenced Isha to move on from Bruce, because it got to a point when they were at the gay club where she had pulled Bruce aside and said, she thought that he was a Trump supporter, and he thought that, he had all these different views, and she thought that he was faking for the cameras and that she had misjudged him. And so, essentially Bruce said, try to get to know him. Like, he was attracted to her. He wanted to get to know her for her. And also the fact that he, politically is more of a moderate, but, he really wanted to get that opportunity. And it just kind of sucks that, things kind of, fizzled out for them. Because I actually thought that they actually could have, really been a good match. So, next we have Mr. Michael here, and Michael needs to pursue another career than comedy. Oh my gosh, we got to see him do like an open mic thing at 2 different events. One of the first times he invited Karami, and Karami was just trying to hold back, the laugh, because it was like, not laugh that it was funny, but laughing at how awkward it was. And the first one was complete silence during Michael's entire set. And I cracked up so hard. I was like, Michael, please do not continue with this comedy thing. Just stop it. Just stop. And so then it just got to a point like he was, and it's like weird stuff that he's talking about. Like there's like a lot of, different jokes about Hitler and about sex and about all this stuff. And it's just like very weird and very awkward. And nobody like does anything. Like they just like sit there and look at him. And so then this happened again, because later on, Isha and Michael start to go out, after Michael completely missed the boat on Raquel. And then he then completely missed the mark by bringing this 51-year-old woman he met on Hinge, out to where the group was, out at one of the bars watching a band. And that was just a disaster. It's like Michael has no game. He has no idea what he is doing in the realm of dating and, different cues to pick up on when a woman is interested, when a woman is flirting. Like he is just completely out of the loop. And, and Isha, for whatever reason, once she, got that confirmation from Raquel that Raquel wasn't seeing it for Mike, that, she wasn't trying to go down that road. Then Isha, went ahead and started amping up the flirting with Michael, and, they get some food at a taco truck, and then also go out to this stand-up. And again, it's very awkward. There were a couple of laughs this time, but it was just overall awkward. And the first time that this happened and Karami went with him, Michael had a meltdown. He literally tore up his entire room, and it was so bizarre because after he had that meltdown, Isha and Natalie went to go clean up his room. And I found that to be very interesting. I'm like, why can't he clean up after himself? Like, he's the one that destroyed the room. Like, he should be the one to clean it back up. Like, it was very weird because I'm like, they don't even live in the same house. Like, they're in two separate Airbnbs, and you take it upon yourself to go clean up his room for him like he's a child. Oh, no. Like, he's an adult. He can, handle things himself. Like, he needs to learn that maybe this isn't for him. Maybe comedy is not what he thinks he is. I don't know who at home told him he was funny, considering none of his friends or family has ever listened to him do any comedy. But whoever was trying to gas him up lied to him, because these people in Austin do not see it for him and do not see it for this comedy. So other than that, seems to be progressing between him and Isha, but I don't know. I just feel like Isha might have pulled the plug on Bruce too soon. I think Isha could have, really been missing out on somebody like Bruce, because Bruce really actually seemed like a decent person. The one thing that I was kind of bothered by is we did not see much Raquel in the show after the first episode, and I felt a certain way about that. Like, they would only show her like in her bed if she's like on the phone, or if she's working, I'm presuming, on her laptop, but we just did not see much of Raquel, and she wasn't even a part of some of the group outings, so we just like have no idea like if she was just busy with work or if production is just being shady and not featuring her. And it seemed like they wanted to feature her heavily when it was a possibility that her and Michael could start dating, but then once that fizzled out, they just completely abandoned all of the Raquel footage. And we only saw, every once in a while when the girls would try to come and talk to her for advice or that sort of thing. But we hardly ever saw her. And we didn't even know like who on the guy's side that she was close friends with or anything. We did get to see towards the end of the season, or the end of the first 6 episodes that dropped, that her and Isha appear to have a really close relationship. And she was really encouraging Isha to get her pieces out there to these different boutiques. So she seems like she's like a really awesome person, and it just sucks that we are not getting to see, anything that's going on with her at all, unless it involves, somebody they deem the quote unquote major character of the show, which I think is a joke. I feel like everybody equally should be getting the same amount of screen time. And it just seems like it felt like the first 6 episodes was really the Abby show. And I was just over it, because I'm like, this chick is not that interesting for her to be, presented as the main character. Like it's just not like she's a hot mess express. So that was kind of it with Raquel. We really just didn't know too much about her. So I'm hoping with the next 6 episodes we do get something, because it was just very weird. So, going back to the Abby and Karami drama, the fallout, the aftermath of, her being upset about him kissing a girl at the bar after he already hooked up with her, even though they established they were friends with benefits. Kamari apologized just to keep the peace, but he basically said in his confessional, I have nothing to be sorry about, because we established what this was and nobody was trying to catch feelings. So then Abby goes down this like self-destructive path. She's trying to find a job because she's like running through her savings, and she applies to be a bartender. And I guess previously she used to be a bartender, but it was several years ago. So they show her, going in to try to interview. And so the girl there tells her to come back the following day for the different training to see how good that she can make some drinks. And if based off of that type of, bartender training, she could then get the job. So the next day that she comes in to do this bartender training was a train wreck, was an absolute train wreck. All of the drinks just looked disturbing. She was either putting too much alcohol in everything. And Karami and Natalie went to go visit her and see how, she was doing with mixing these different drinks. And it was just a disaster. It was just a train wreck. They couldn't even sip it for like more than a second because they said it just tasted disgusting. And was wondering if she was just trying to give everybody alcohol poisoning. And so I was like, if they still hire this girl, they've lost their minds. And Abby is doing the one thing that people should never do on any job. I hate when people say, this is my first day. I'm new. I'm still trying to figure things out. Don't be upset with me if this is wrong, because I'm still just trying to figure it out. Please bear with me. I'm new. Sorry, I'm taking too long. It's my first day. Like, stop it. Like, that's what Abby was doing the entire time. And it was so cringe because it's like, that's not going to give you a pass for, screwing up. At the end of the day, these are regular people who come to this bar. They're still expecting a certain level of quality in their drinks. Like, you can't just give them crap and, give the excuse it's your first day. Like, you have to be somewhat competent and somewhat of, a quick learner, or you claim to have a background with bartending. How have you fallen off so far that you can't make a basic drink to where people are getting sick, are barely able to drink it? Like, it's just very weird. But yeah, that whole thing where it's like, oh, it's my first day, please bear with me. I'm very new to this. I'm new to this town. We're just going to see what happens and this and that, please, don't be upset if your drink is wrong and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh no, if they hire this girl after this hot mess, then I have no words. Like, at all. And so, after that, thank goodness that night they called her and they were like, we don't see it for you. We don't think you're a fit. We want somebody who has more experience. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, I was just like, thank goodness. Because it was just awful. And so I think that led down to Abby like hooking up with somebody on a dating app, and she had like a walk of shame where she spent the night at some rando's house, wearing Karami's hoodie. Like, it was just a whole hot mess. And she came in like the next day, like just completely hungover. And she's like, yeah, I do these self-destructive things and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, girl, you need therapy. You need to, get over your marriage, first of all, because that's the first issue at hand. Secondly, you need to get over this weird possessive behavior that you have over somebody who's not your boyfriend, or not a significant other in any capacity. And then the self-destructive behavior when things don't go your way or people don't play by your rules, you just go out and sleep with random people. Like, that's just not what's hot in the streets. It's like, girl, you need to get your life together. You need to get your life in order, because this is not how, things need to go. So on the other end of things, some of the other people who were looking for jobs, like Bruce, he had an initial interview with the minor league team in Austin, and it was like a long delay before they called him back for a second interview, but they called him back for a second interview eventually, a few weeks later, it felt like. And it was actually a really nice facility that he did his interview in, and they had like this virtual thing. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of a makeshift Top Golf a little bit, but it was like a 3D version of where you could have like your baseball bat and you can like swing and, hit basically at any arena, any of the baseball stadiums across the country. So I thought that was like a really cool, thing to promote on the show. That was really awesome. And so the guy that was interviewing him really liked him and basically offered him, the job. And so it was weird because I guess Bruce was really homesick with his family and really missed his family and, called his family every day. And so it was kind of as if he was just waiting to see if he would get another job, but ultimately wasn't going to take it. He had mentioned how he got laid off, for the pandemic. And so in between that, he was helping out at his family's business, which is, his father's insurance company. But it seemed like he was kind of just looking for something more for the show and everything else. So I thought, this was going to be great for him. He was going to get a full-time gig, with this minor league baseball team and ultimately, move up or whatever goals and aspirations he has, for Major League Baseball, to maybe be like an executive or something, or, like a lead salesperson or GM or whoever, eventually in Major League Baseball. But he turned down the job and basically told, the group that he was going to go back home to South Carolina, that he essentially was homesick. And so it was like he literally just stuck around long enough to see if he was actually going to get the job or not, and then was going to make a decision based off of that. But it kind of just sounded like his mind was already made up. And I don't know if part of that, decision making might have had to do with maybe the reality show wasn't he expected, or I don't know. Or maybe because nothing worked out for him romantically with Isha, or maybe maybe we didn't really see much of Bruce, to be honest, as well, which I found pretty interesting too. We saw a lot of his friendship with Kiki, and we saw a lot of him working out with Karami. That was the most we saw, and as well as the different group activities whenever they would go to the bar, go to a restaurant, and that sort of thing. But for the most part, we did not see a lot of Bruce. I would say behind Raquel that Bruce was the least featured cast member. So he ends up leaving. And then another cast member that's looking for work is Natalie. So Natalie, said that she didn't have too much savings from, where she used to live in Miami, and she's going to need a job soon. So she applies at a coffee shop, and, ultimately, Karami takes her, and, he tries out the coffee while she's at her interview, and she gets an email that evening letting her know that she got the gig, that she got the job. So she goes over to tell Karami, and, he looks at her email and he's like, "Oh, congrats." And she's like, "You're not going to be excited?" And so then he's like, "Woohoo, congrats," and throws his arms in the air. But it was just funny because his reaction was hilarious. But it was you could tell he was happy for her, but it was just subdued. He wasn't trying to go all crazy or whatever. So I found that to be hilarious. So then, really the only other thing that happened was after Abby self-destructed with this, whole crises that she's having in her personal life. After she hooks up with somebody and has like a walk of shame at somebody at somebody else's place and comes in like the next day, she then decides that she wants to end her friends with benefit situation with Karami. And so Karami tried to play like he felt away, but I could tell deep down he was kind of happy, because if people are starting to catch feelings and trying to be possessive and things of that nature, that's not what you want. Especially in a situation like this where, you know, you're only going to be somewhere for potentially 2 months. You're not sure whether or not it's going to be longer. And there's no need for you to rush into something. And that's why, you know, sometimes like office romances, or like when people try to hook up in the house in these types of situations, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. There's like no gray area at all. So then it was funny because the girls, except for Abby, was telling Raquel that, you know, Abby and Karami ended things. And so it was funny because Roxy was like, well, why did she end it with him? He's fine. And so then we got like these confessionals finally from Raquel that was missing the last 5 episodes, to where she was essentially saying that, you know, she had always found Karami attractive, but she never had an opportunity to, you know, make her move or anything, because, you know, essentially Abby just like, you know, swooped right in. And so, but Raquel also kind of just pivoted to Michael too, for whatever reason. I don't know why she pivoted to him. She should have, you know, made it known what it was with her and Karami, and I think they would have been together from the beginning. I honestly do. So kind of where things left off as we prep for the next set of episodes to drop is everybody, finds out that Bruce is going to end up leaving his roommates and going back home to South Carolina. So, after he leaves, the group basically just decides to go out on his behalf because they don't want to be sad or be upset that they're losing a roommate, because Kiki was taking it really hard because that was his best friend in the house, and he had just got back, from, his funeral and everything, from seeing his grandmother. And so, and they decided, we're not going to be upset. We're not going to be sad. We're going to, party in his honor and everything else. And so Raquel comes out, and she comes out in this fierce outfit. I mean, it was just on point, from top to bottom. And, Karami is once again staring at her, and it is hilarious. And everybody is having a good time. Everybody's dancing. Everybody's drinking. And then, Kamari's like, well, I'm back on the prowl. I'm about to go talk to see what, women is out there. And so he's like talking with a couple of women. And so we keep getting these weird confessionals from Abby where she's like, well, yeah, I want to see, what's up with Karami and, how I'm going to react if he talks to other women and blah, 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 blah. And this is the first time that we're not together. And I'm like, girl, he is not your man, and he never was your man. Like, what? Why are you so possessive and so obsessed with what he does? Like, she was even asking other members of the group, like, where Karami was. It was like she wanted to stare at him all night and watch his every move. And it's like, girl, you dumped him. You said that you didn't want to continue your situationship, your entanglement anymore. So why do you care what he's doing? Like, I don't know. There's just something weird with her. Like, it's like she sinks her hooks into people and wants them to be obsessed with her and only her, even if it's nothing serious. And it's just very bizarre behavior. And it's also getting uncomfortable to watch as a viewer. So anyways, it was so funny because Karami and Raquel finally meet up. They also call her Roxy. It was funny because I was seeing on social media, they kept calling out this Roxy name. And I was like, who's Roxy? Is that somebody new that's coming on the show? And I realized it was like a nickname for Raquel. So towards the end of the episodes, people were calling her Roxy. And that's when I was confused. I thought somebody new was coming, but it was her. It's Raquel, short for, I guess, her nickname or whatever. And so it ends up happening that Karami and Roxy have like a cute little talk at the bar. And it's so funny because it's like you see them immediately code switch and try to have like their own talk with each other that they can't have around the other house guests. And it is hilarious. And so, Karami's like, what's up with you, Roxy? What's up, Roxy? And she's like, well, what's up with you? And it's like you could kind of read between the lines, like, hey, what's up? Like, what's up with us? Like, what happened? Like, why did you, go for Abby first when I liked you and I didn't know you liked me? Like, it was like an unspoken conversation that they were having, the way that they were talking in code and they were flirting and everything else. And, you know, Roxy said in her confessional, I don't know, it's something about the way the light is hitting Karami, but he has me feeling a certain type of way. He's looking extra attractive tonight. And then Karami's in the confessional talking about, I've always been attracted to Raquel and, there's a lot of chemistry between us. And he's like, Jesus, please take the wheel and everything else. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this should have been what happened from the start. You should not have gotten tangled up into Abby's web of mess. And so Abby eventually finds out from the group that, Karami and Roxy are talking and she has like this look on her face where she's just like pissed and she like storms off. And I'm like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, why do you care? And it didn't even seem like her and Abby are really friends anyways, and they didn't establish anything serious with her and Karami, so why does she care? And it was like, Raquel handled it fine when Isha wanted to pursue things with Michael once, Raquel realized that there was nothing that materialized between her and Michael, and there was nothing serious going on between Karami and Abby anyways. Like, they just weren't a good fit, so who cares? So, it kind of just ends the episode that we see with, Karami and Raquel flirting. And then they kind of do this like pinky kiss thing that I've never seen before. But it's like they interlock their hands with like their pinkies and like kiss their thumbs or something. It was really interesting. I was like, oh, okay. And I don't know if that's like their handshake or if that's like their thing or whatever. And so they're just like continuing to flirt through the night. And so that's kind of like the conclusion of the first 6 episodes. And so we see in the previews what looks to be like a Halloween party. And it looks like the men are interviewing potential new male roommates because they need somebody to come in basically to replace Bruce since Bruce had left, the experience for good. And then it just shows Abby having more meltdowns. And then it shows things getting spicy with Mr. Karami and Roxy, which I cannot wait to see. Because at one point he like throws the towel over the camera and I'm like, uh-oh, this is about to go down. So, normally I can kind of see where people might feel a certain way and feel like maybe Roxy shouldn't get tangled up in this Karami thing. But I honestly think they both pegged each other, like thinking that they were not into Black people. And so as a result, Karami went to go pursue whatever with Abby, and Raquel, went on the move for Michael, even though they both were attracted to each other. So I think now that they've kind of smoothed all that out, it'll be very interesting to see kind of what transpires with this and if things really take off with them or not. Because I'm like, how did they not see that Netflix casted them for them to be together? Like, it was so obvious. And they were probably hoping or anticipating that Abby and Bruce were the ones to get together, is kind of what I thought, from thinking from like a casting producer perspective. That's probably what they were thinking, that, okay, Isha, but Isha, I'm not sure. Maybe they thought either Isha or Abby would be into Bruce is maybe what they were thinking there. And then thinking that Raquel/Roxy would be into Karami. But at least one of those things it looks to be coming to fruition. So hopefully, things hit off with them. And then the only other thing that ended up happening was when Roxy went with Isha, to promote her different fashion pieces, because there were like really important crafts that she had used to make these pieces from different Indian artists and things. And the first place she went to while the lady liked her stuff, she basically said it wasn't fit for her demographic, which AKA meant that it was not going to be any people of color that were going to be purchasing, any of that, or that's not her primary demographic at that particular boutique. So, it was so nice because Roxy was really encouraging, and she told her, she was like, this is not the end of the world. You could definitely call around different boutiques, see who has similar styles to what you set your fashions to. And it was nice because then she was also, really a really good friend and encouraging her and everything else. And so then at the end, we saw that she finally found, the right place that kind of sold a similar style to what she had set up. And the lady said, we're going to go the consignment route first. And she said, we're going to start off with 3 pieces, and you kind of decide on, what the price is going to be. And then we'll mark it up from there. And then if that becomes successful, then we'll start to, get more of an inventory from your line. So I thought that was really awesome. So we're definitely going to see, what takes off. I believe it's called Cut Apparel or something on Instagram. And they have I think when the show started, they had 13,000 followers already. But I think since the show aired, the last time I checked, I want to say it has 14 or 15,000 views at this point, or followers. So I definitely think it's gonna pick up some more interest from people, for sure, with the success of the show. And so far the show has been, I think, in the top 10. It's number 7 right now in the US of everybody that's watching. So it kind of seems like more people are starting to hear about the show, and I'm sure there's going to be more reaction and more people giving their take on things as we get more people seeing kind of what happens. So that is kind of it for the synopsis of the first 6 episodes. And like I said, the last 6 episodes will be out this Friday. I'm not sure if there's going to be a reunion or anything of that nature, or if it'll just be these particular 12 episodes and then that's it. But, it's nice for Netflix to kind of take this real world sort of approach within reality TV, because it's something that I feel like we've been missing for a very long time since MTV stopped doing the real world. So this was really refreshing to see. The only thing I did say, like I said earlier, is that there unfortunately just wasn't a lot of drama. So outside of Abby's mess. So it was just kind of it was cute, seeing some of the friendships and some of the interactions and some of the awkwardness, but you could tell certain people were just really trying to be cool, and they weren't trying to, be extra for reality TV or be extra for the cameras. So we'll see on the back half of this if there is any drama that unfolds, if anybody gets into it with anybody, or how all of that happens. But those are all of my thoughts. Please let me know if you guys have watched this show, 20-somethings Austin, on Netflix yet or not, and what your thoughts so far are on the first 6 episodes. Please do not forget to comment, and subscribe. And I will talk to you guys again very soon.